Hi, everybody. This is February 2023 and our Barnstar block of the month. This month in February, we are doing a pinwheel block. And this one, the pinwheel is block number 18. And this one is block number 14. Okay, so we're going to start with 18. And we're focusing on half square triangles this month. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay. So let's start with block number 18. This is the pinwheel block. It's completely made of half square triangles. So in your cutting directions, you're going to cut 2 3-inch blocks of number 10, 2 3-inch squares of number 15, 4 3-inch squares of the solid white number 26. And then for the B fabrics, these will be your stars. You're going to cut 4 of number 20, 2 of number 11, and 2 more of number 23. All 3-inch squares. So to start with, I'm going to start with the yellow. I'll take my A's and my B's. These two are going to go together in a square. And then the white and the blue, lighter blue, will go together. And then the rosebud and the dark blue will go together. It takes 2 3-inch squares to make one block. And we're going to take an A and a B. And the first thing we have to do is all of your A fabrics, you're going to turn them over and draw a diagonal line on the back. And that will be all of your A's, your A fabrics, which would be your backgrounds. So we're just going to draw a line from corner to corner. There's your line from corner to corner. So we got the A on top of the B. And what we're going to do is go to the machine and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch to the outside of the line. A scant 1/4 inch, if anything less than a 1/4 inch. That will give you more fabric to trim up after you sew it, but you're going to sew down each side. So when sewing, put the solid line down the center at your 1/4 inch mark on your machine, and that will help you to sew a 1/4 inch away from it. So here I've got one that's finished. And you can see there's a 1/4 inch this way and this way, a good scant 1/4 inch. So I have a little bit of extra there. So after you've sewed on both sides, we're going to cut it. And I'm going to cut directly on the line that we drew. And then you get 2 half square triangles. Okay. Now with these half square triangles, you'll notice the little arrow on the book tells you which direction to press. We're going to press towards the dark side. Now with this yellow, I consider this one the light one and this one the darker one. It's kind of confusing on the yellow, so that'll help you out too. Okay, so there we have 2 half square triangles. Now we're going to do is we're going to square them up to 2.5 inches. So take your ruler. If you've got a square ruler, it'll be the easiest, but there are diagonal lines on your 6x24 inch that you can use also. But you have the 2.5 line here and here. So I'm going to put the diagonal line on the diagonal of my square. To start with, I start there, and then I look at the 2.5 mark all the way around to make sure I'm not cutting anything off. Cut up the side and the top. I'm going to turn it 180 degrees. And on the second side, then you can just line up the 2.5 with the edge of the square on the ruler, and your diagonals lined up. And there you've got the 2.5 inch half square triangle. Let's do it one more time. I'm going to start by lining up my diagonal on my ruler with the diagonal seam. Make sure 2.5 all the way around is not being cut off. Then cut up the side and across the top, turn it 180, line up the diagonal again, and line up the edge of the square with the 2.5 inch marks. There we go. Okay. So for one square, you're going to make 4 half square triangles. Now we're going to take the 4 half square triangles. This is your first step, is to make the 4 half square triangles. The second step is to turn them so that they form a pinwheel. So I'm going to start with the upper left like this, and then we're going to just watch that yellow, that light yellow, go all the way around. So you just turn it, and then we're going to turn it again, and one more time. So now to put these 4 together, I'm going to put the right ones on top of the left ones. So I'll sew the 2 top ones together and the 2 bottom ones together. And when I do this, I'll take those 2 and I start by nesting those 2 seams together. They should nest right together. And then I'll put a clip down here at the bottom so they don't separate. Line up the top of it, and then it would just go right into the machine, just like that. Same with the bottom. Nest those 2 seams together, clip it or pin it, and then line up the other corners, and then right through the machine at a scant 1/4 inch. So when you get those done, you end up with 2, they almost look like flying geese, but they're half square triangles. You end up with 2. Now, these will be put together with the points facing one another, and you start to see the pinwheel going around. So when we do this, we have to line up the points on the arrows. So I'm going to take one on top where those seams cross. I'm going to put a pin in. So it comes out right at the top of that point. And I'll push it all the way in. Then I'm going to take the second one, and at the point of the second triangle, I'm going to put that pin straight through the point so that I can match these 2 points up together. So what I'll do is push the head of the pin all the way down and nest those 2 seams together, and that will line up my points. I'll also line up the seam towards the other side. And you see if I open it up, that they line up. So I'm going to put another pin down here so that center stays together. And then at the top, I'm going to place a clip. Then I can take that pin out that I first put in, line up my edges at the top and the bottom, and go to the machine and sew my scant 1/4 inch right across there. Now, as I come to the clip, I'll just hold it with my finger as it goes under the foot and remove the clip. And then as it goes across, you can see, as I use blue thread, I don't normally use blue thread, but as you see, that point right there is where it needs to stitch. You don't want to go inside of that too far, but you don't want to be outside of it too far. You want to come right across right there so your points will match, and then go and sew the rest of the way. Okay, if I hold it at an angle, you can probably see that seam is coming right down. Right there is my point. So I come right across the point of it and then open it up, and those points are matching in the center. When you go to press these, you're going to do a pinwheel on the back of them. So you see this seam is going to the left, this seam's going to the right. So that means this one has to come down, this one has to come up. And if I put my fingers right next to the center there, you can kind of pop that open in the center so that these big seams lay flat going all the way around in the same direction. And then in the center, you've made another little pinwheel. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll hold this flat, put it down on my pressing mat, make sure that these are all open seams, and give it a good press. And there you go. That's how you make a pinwheel. So for block 18, you're going to do 2 of them in this blue and white. You're going to make one in the navy blue and the rosebud print, and then our yellow on yellow. You'll make one of those. So just 4 of them. And okay, so this is block 18. Next, we'll do block 14. Okay, ladies, now we're going to start with block 18. Don't let this one scare you. It's not so bad. We're going to do it one step at a time. And it turns out really pretty, like this block. So for cutting block 14, you should have A blocks out of the rosebud print. You're going to cut 3 inches by 3 inch squares, and you're going to do 3 sets of 2. Because we're making 3 blocks, you're going to have 3 sets of 2. All 3 blocks are going to be identical on this one. So 3 sets of 2 3 by 3 rosebud squares. And while you're cutting the rosebud print, you're going to cut 3 sets of 2.5 inch squares. And each set gets 8 squares. Remember, 3 blocks, 3 sets of 8. So that's 24 2.5 inch squares. Okay, then we're going to go to the plum. And just like the rosebud, you're going to cut 3 inch squares in three sets for 3 different squares, 3 different blocks. And also out of the plum, you're going to cut 2.5 inch squares, 3 sets of 4. So the 2.5 inch squares of the rosebud, you cut 8 for each block. In the plum, you're only going to cut 4 for each block, 2.5 by 2.5. And last, the pink. And in the pink, you're going to cut 3 sets of 4, 2.5 by 4.5 inches. Okay, 3 sets of 4. And that would be labeled D. Yeah, labeling on this one might help you out. These are labeled D. The 2.5 by 2.5 inch plums are E. The 3 by 3 plum are B's. A's, the rosebud 3 by 3s. And C's, the 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares out of the rosebud. If you got those all cut, you'll be set to start sewing. If you are sewing all 3 blocks at once, this is a great way to chain piece and get all 3 of them done rather quickly. But we're going to start with the A and the B block, the 3 inch squares. And you're going to do like we did on the half square triangles. We're going to make half square triangle. So on this block, you're going to need to draw a diagonal line on the back of the A's. And you will also draw diagonal lines on the back of the C's and the E's. Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to put these 2 together, A and B blocks. We'll do just like before. Okay, so you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch on each side of the drawn line. Stitch a 1/4 inch. Then you'll go to your cutting mat and cut directly on the line. So for each square, you're going to do this 2 times for each square. And after you cut it, take it apart, open it up, and you've got a nice half square triangle. Then you can go to your ironing board and you're going to press it towards the purple. So it'll be like this. Okay, so you'll press it towards the purple and you'll end up with 4 half square triangles for each block. Okay, then you're going to set these aside. That was the first step. So you set these aside. In the second step, you're going to need a D fabric and a C fabric and an E fabric. And you'll notice that the C and the E's have the diagonal line drawn across the back from corner to corner. So when we start, we're going to start with the C and the D fabric. And you're going to place the C on top of the D It's going to go on the left-hand side, line up those corners, and you're going to sew, you're going to stitch directly on the line going across the back of the C square. And remember that at this point, it is easier to turn it this direction and start sewing from the middle of the D fabric instead of trying to start in the corner. So start here and sew this direction. When that's done, it'll look like this. I don't know if you can see it, but here's what the back side looks like. And you'll go stitch from corner to corner. Okay, at this part then, you're going to trim off that excess corner 1/4 of an inch to the outside of that seam. You're going to cut that off. Then we're going to go to the iron and we're going to press this down. So your C and D fabric will look like this. You'll have one corner done. Okay, you're going to make 4 of these for each of the stars. Then we're going to take our E fabric, the plum E fabric, and the E fabric's going to cover this upper right-hand corner. So we're going to place it so that the diagonal goes from the top center of the D fabric down to the lower right-hand corner. You're going to line those up, and then you're just going to stitch directly on the line going across. Okay, the back side will look like this. Okay, if you're pretty confident that you have that, you can check it by pulling this over, folding that over. If you want to fold that over and press it first to make sure that you have it, you can. And then we're going to cut off 1/4 inch from the seam, 1/4 inch towards that top right corner. Okay, now I'll go to the iron and I'm going to press it towards the corner. So the first time we pressed it towards the white corner, now I'm going to press it towards the purple corner. And it looks like this. So at this point, this should measure 2.5 inches by 4.5. You can check it. I found that I didn't really have to, I didn't trim mine. They were off a little bit, but not really a lot. There wasn't a lot to trim. You definitely do not want to make your seam allowances larger than 1/4 inch. You've got to stay smaller than 1/4 inch. It'll be, just have to watch that. I have 4 of these for my square. Okay, so at this point, we're going to take our first half square triangles and a solid rosebud 2.5 inch square, and we're going to sew these together just like that. Okay, so the half square triangle will be on the right hand side. You've got the diagonal going from the top left to the lower right, and you just put it on top of the 2.5 inch square and sew 1/4 of an inch. You can see their 1/4 inch there. Then it's going to press. When you press it towards the half square triangle. And that's important. You must press it going towards the half square triangle. And one thing to notice here as you're putting this together, you see up here at the point, you've got about 1/4 of an inch right there. The point should be off of the edge of the fabric by 1/4 of an inch. Down on the other side, point, that seam should go right into the corner. So now we'll take these, you'll have 4 of these for each block. You're going to take your diagonal piece that we just put together, and we're going to put these 2 pieces together like this. Okay, so I'll just flip this one down. Now, in lining these up, you definitely want to get it side to side, right where you want it. You want it to go clear across. Where they're going to cross, or where you have to worry about it lining up, is in the center at 1/4 inch down. Those points should cross. They should meet. Okay, I'm going to clip it there and line it up over here. So I'll go to the machine and sew it down 1/4 inch all the way across. Okay. When it's opened up, it's going to look like this. So you can see it lines up right here. It's this center and this center. I've got a 1/4 inch, the point at a 1/4 inch in over here. And up here, it's a 1/4 of an inch in. And the diagonal line matches up directly in that corner. Okay. So you will make 4 of these for each block. And when you press these, you're going to press down towards the diagonal side. So this one has to go towards that pink. So I'm going to press that. So now I've got 2 of them here. If I had 4, I would put them together so that the points go out. The bottom one would be just the same, look like this. Okay, so now I'm going to take the right one, put it on top of the left one. And what I want to do first is I want to line up that center section there, those points. So I'm going to line up that corner first. And then I like to put a clip on it to hold it. Okay. And if you want to check this, you just pinch it together and fold it back about 1/4 of an inch. And you see mine do not match up. So I'm going to try to slide it over a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line up this corner too. Okay. And then I'm going to have to work this in here in the center part to bring those together in the right spot. Got a 1/4 of an inch down, still off. So I'm going to try to shift it a little bit more. Once I feel like I've gotten it, I'm going to pin it or clip it. Okay. And I'll just have to work in that little bit of extra fabric there and there. And I'll just try to pull it tight. I'll double check my end here and make sure that my point's lined up in the corner. And I'll just have to work that little extra in when I sew it. Okay. So that's how you would line this up. And then when you open it up, that star will match up where it needs to. When you do that, this point right here should be a 1/4 inch from the edge. And you'll do 2 of these for each quilt or each block. Now, after you get the 2 together, the top and the bottom, then you put the whole thing together. And when you press it all together, once again, you'll make that pinwheel on the back with the seams folded over. It's like goes that way, this way, over and around. It just all the way around. And you'll kind of have a little pinwheel in the center and just press it out real good. So looking at this one, I had 2 points that were off when I made this, and I fixed one of them, but I left the other one so that I could show you. See, this one's right. This one matches up. This one matches up, but this one up here did not match up for me. So I thought I'd better show you how to fix that. So that's where I didn't get them lined up at that 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to have to do is from this point out, I'm going to take out the seam, and then I'll have to scoot this down so it lines up with that purple. So I'm going to take out the stitches. And since my edge is off too, see if I look at that, this is not lined up straight. I'm going to go all the way to the edge to line that up better. So there, I just undid this section. Now, what I'm going to do, it was the pink that's too close to the center. So I'm going to need to slide it out right here to line it up. I have my fold there so I can kind of use it and see where the seam went through the purple. If you look at the pinholes or the needle holes, I can use that. It's probably cheating, but it works. I got it lined up right there. So I'm going to have to go back and pin it, not like that. You got to open it back up. Okay. Put a clip there where I want it to stay and match up. And you'll see that this edge now, this corner on the outside will now match up. And then all the extra, I'll just work in between. And that's going to be right here. It's a little bit extra there. So I'm going to have to work that out in the center. I can take out a few more stitches to give me more room to work it in, but you're just going to have to pull in between, find the center, pin it, pin it, and pin it. And that will work that in for you. Okay. Then just take it back to the machine, sew my 1/4 inch, and it'll be all good. So that's how you would fix it if your points don't line up. But I think all your points are going to line up. You'll be just fine. Okay, so this is block 14. Once it's all sewed together, the block 14. And that's February. The in-person workshop is February 22nd. It's a Wednesday this month from 2 to 4 and 5:30 to 7:30. Okay, so starting in March, the in-person class will be switched to Mondays in March. It'll be the following Monday from the second Tuesday, so the third Monday, and it'll be the same times from 2 to 4 and 5:30 to 7:30. The Zoom will stay the same on the second Tuesday. Everybody can Zoom in and see the class, see how the blocks are done. And then if you want to come in and get some extra help, I'll be here on the next following Monday in March, the 22nd in February. And just make sure that you call and sign up. There were a lot of people here that first night, so we split up 2 times to make sure everybody gets the help that they need. But please sign up either 2 to 4 or 5:30 to 7:30. Okay, I will see y'all next month. Bye.